Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to cover another build for the Chronomancer, but this time it will not be a support build but a DPS build. This build revolves around boon stripping and doing damage. Mostly the damage is not so strong, like it's not comparable to berserkers, holosmiths, dragon hunters or vindicators or reapers, but still you will do a decent amount of damage, and also it has some nice burst damage like some spikes when your cooldowns aligns, and when you use your continuum split properly, you can deal a lot of damage, a lot of CCs and a lot of boon strip, especially while you are in melee. So this class probably at the moment is the best class for stripping boons while you are on melee. I saw like basically I was all the time top boon strip on arc DPS. Maybe it's the class, maybe there is something better, but it's not meta, I don't know. So let's get into the build. Before I start, I want to tell you that if you are looking for an easy DPS build, this is not the build for you, because the DPS is not really good even if you are very good Chronomancer, and then also this build is not easy. So if you are like a first time player or someone who is introducing right now into War vs World, I would consider using something else from my channel like the Reaper or the Dragon Hunter. This is the build I've been running in the clips I will show you and also in some other gameplays. I run Dominations, Illusion and Chronomancer. On Domination I run Bountiful Blades, improves basically your skill 2 and your skill 4 from the Greysword. The skill 2 launches a blade which is also unblockable and it will bounce, and with that trait it will bounce even more times. You see a lot of bounces because of this trait. Then your skill 4, which will summon a phantasm which will spin into the enemies and do a decent amount of damage. With the trait you will spawn 2 of them, which is huge. Also the other 2 traits are kinda useless, so just go for Bountiful Blades. Then we have Shattered Concentration, which is basically the trait which makes this build viable. Shatter skills also remove a boon on hit. This also applies to the shattered illusions, so if you shatter one of your illusion, even if you are not there, but the illusion shatters there and hits the enemies, you see, those explosion will trigger the Shattered Concentration trait, and so they will remove a boon. So let's say like now we have 3 illusions, I press my F1, each explosion you see will remove a boon from the enemies. So this is a very important trait and the most strong, like the strongest trait in this build. What you need to know is that your F1 on the Chronomancer will be changed compared to the normal Mesmer. So you have one explosion and after a while you have a secondary explosion. This secondary explosion will not remove any boons. It's not counted like a shatter, it just deals damage, which is still decent, I mean, but still you need to know this. You will not remove the boons twice with your F1. Then we have Vicious Expression. You and your illusion deals increased damage to foes without boons. This will not happen a lot unless you are winning already the fight. And then Disabling a foe removes boons from them. So basically we disable a foe whenever we CC them, like stun, daze and so on, knockback, while they don't have stability. So oftentimes you might be removing strips like boons from the enemies, like stability, you remove them and then you might CC the enemies. You have a lot of stuff to CC the enemies. You have your F3, which is an AoE daze around you. You have your skill 5 on the Greysword, which is a push, a knockback actually. Then we have the skill 5 from the shield, which is an AoE stun, going on 5 targets, coming back 5 more targets. And then we have, most importantly, the Gravity Well, which deals like 3 pulses and each pulse is a CC. So if the enemy has no stability, you will really remove a lot of boons from them. Then we have Illusions. We have Shatter Storm. Our skill F1 becomes an ammo skill, so we have 2 charges of it. Then we run Escape Artist. When a phantasm is created, grant it distortion, and this is for 5 seconds distortion, which is huge. You see, my phantasms are invulnerable, they cannot be killed, so they can become illusions freely and I can shatter them. Beware that the illusions are not invulnerable like the phantasms, so you need to shatter very quickly before the enemies will kill them. But it's not really easy in War vs World, like you are fighting 50 versus 50. But still, having distortions for 5 seconds on your phantasms means that they will freely perform their attack. So your 2 phantasmal berserkers will not be killed immediately. They have 5 seconds to deal their damage. Then we have also here Master of Fragmentation, increase critical chance by 25% on our F1. We already have critical cap, but we run this trait because the other 2 traits are kinda useless, and also the skill F2 now will cripple, which is nice. If the enemies have not enough condi removal, you have additional cripple on them. And also the F3 comes from a one single target. You see, F3 is just a single target, but if you run this trait, you will hit 5 targets around you. So it's an AoE daze, sorry, which is a CC and can trigger Vicious Expression, and also the Superior Sigil of Absorption, and also the Shatter's concentration will remove 1 boon from 5 targets instead of 1 target. Then our F4 will reflect the projectiles. We go invulnerable, and if they attack us, the projectiles will be reflected. And also we have Continuum Split, which is our F5. It will last 1 more second, which is huge, and I will explain later how it works. On Chronomancer, we have activating a shatter gives your illusion super speed, so your illusion will not be hindered by any obstacles in the ground. You have this illusion here, F1, they immediately run to the enemies with super speed, they cannot be slowed or anything else. And also shatters deals increased damage to movement impaired foes, 5% increased damage. Here we have Flow of Time, gain alacrity for each clone you shatter. This only applies to ourselves, I will explain later another thing. Improved alacrity, so the other 2 traits are kinda useless. Improved alacrity is kinda decent instead. Alacrity applied to you is stronger but has a reduced duration. Gain increased critical strike damage when you have alacrity. So we will have a lot of alacrity, so this is a free 10% critical damage increase. And also our recharge speed from alacrity goes from 25 to 50, but the duration is decreased by 33%. Then here you can choose from Stretched Time or Seize the Moment. Stretched Time basically applies Flow of Time, which is the alacrity on every shatter, to the allies around us. So you can give your allies a lot of alacrity whenever you shatter. Also, you grant alacrity to nearby allies when you summon a Phantasm. You have Phantasm on your skill 4 and on your skill 4 again, both Shield and Greatsword. I chose to run Seize the Moment because since I am a DPS build, I might use the quickness more. I am more greedy with this build. And basically Seize the Moment gives you and nearby allies quickness whenever we shatter, and the quickness increases per clone shattered. And also we grant quickness to nearby allies when we summon a Phantasms. So basically it's like Stretched Time, but instead of giving alacrity, we give quickness. Just go for what you think is better. If you have a druid which can apply a lot of alacrity in your party, just go for the quickness. Otherwise, maybe you can consider alacrity, which is more supportish, like you will support a lot of your allies because they will have lower cooldowns and they will spam skills more, and they are supports, they will heal more and protect more. They are DPS, they will do more DPS. So it's up to you. I went for the greedy option because most of the time I have druids which grant alacrity. So I just went for quickness, which is a more rare boon in War vs World. You don't see a lot of quickness, you see more alacrity. Also the Scourge can give alacrity, and also the Tempest. So in my opinion you should go quickness, but it's up to you. Consider that also Stretch Time is very strong. So this is the gear set. What you need to aim is 80% critical chance. Right now I have like 79, but it's okay. I run a mix of Marauder and Dragon, and I run also some precise War vs World infusion. I run a Superior Rune of the Thief for the precision, but you can change it up, you can swap around, just aim to reach 80% critical chance. You can go some Assassin's gears. I chose to not run Assassins and lose some power from the runes, because I want more survivability, because this class highly relies on staying alive in melee to be effective, so you need the most HP you can, so consider always running Marauder or Dragon. On the Greysword I run Absorption and Frenzy, on the Sword Bloodlust, and on the Shield Absorption again. The trinkets are all Marauder or maybe Dragon and so on, like the gears, the other gears. The relic is Relic of Norris. Basically whenever we are in combat we get every 5 seconds one stacking boon, which is called like Nuri's. As you can see here, Nuri's Hunger. It will refresh each time we are in combat once every 5 seconds, and also whenever we remove a boon from an enemy we will get another stack. When we reach 10 stacks we get bigger, like our character gets bigger and also deals 15% more damage, gets 10% less damage from enemies, and also converts 10% of your damage to healing. So this relic complements really well the Chronomancer, which will strip so many boons, so you will have this effect uptime a lot. Now let's get to the most important part and the most interesting part, and also the hardest to explain. I will do my best. We have the Greysword. The auto attack is a ranged damage, channeled damage, and also the farther away your enemies are, the more damage you do. The targets are 3, and if you should always aim the farther target, so you will hit also the targets in between. The skill 2 is an unblockable skill, which should be used when the enemies have like Wall of Reflection or maybe the bubble from the water, which are projectiles mitigation. You press this, you know this is not a projectile because it's unblockable. You will deal damage and also bounce some might if you are close enough to your allies. Also, if they are close enough, you see 9 stacks of might for free. This also applies to your allies. And then it will also deal, of course, some damage on the enemies, and it will spawn an illusion. Your skill 3 is kinda slow to cast, like it has a very horrendous aftercast during which you cannot move unless you move the mouse or like stow weapon. It deals a decent amount of damage and it's kinda strong, you should be using it. You see big AoE, big instant damage. The only downside is that aftercast. Then we have our skill 4, which summons the Phantasmal Berserkers, and also when you launch the initial blade you will remove boons from enemies, 2 boons, so this is kinda good, and also it's a phantasm. Then we have our skill 5, which is our CC on the Greysword. You press it and you knock back the enemies, and hopefully you interrupt or disable them because they don't have stability. On the sword we have the auto attack, which consists in 3 chains. The last chain will also remove a boon from enemies. It's on 3 targets only, but as you can see it's decent to clip down enemies when you have nothing left. The third hit from this auto attack will remove a boon from 3 targets. The skill 2 is a decent amount of damage. It's channeled and gives you evade all attacks. It gives you 1 second of blur. You should be using this to stay alive in melee. The damage is not fantastic and only hits 3 targets, but still it's 1 second of evade all attacks every 10 seconds. So it really helps a lot to stay alive when you have nothing left. Then we have our skill 3. You press it and you summon an illusion to the enemy. You can press it again to swap place with the illusion, and you blink in and you apply an AoE immobilize when you teleport in. So this is huge for the AoE immobilize. Let's see it again. 2 seconds immobilize on 3 targets, and also is a combo finisher leap and helps you engaging or maybe running away. Like you can select an ambient creature. Let's say this is the enemy. You select an ambient creature, which is like here. You press your skill 3. I failed the range, sorry, but you get the concept. Then we have our skill 4. We will block, and if we get hit we will have it again ready, and we will block again, and we will summon a phantasm both times, which is huge. The phantasms are needed and they are invulnerable also with the trait, this trait right here, and so also they will become illusions and we can shatter them. The skill 5 is an AoE stun on the enemies, very huge and also gives might and swiftness, and if you catch it up when it returns, the cooldown will be reduced by 10 seconds. This is a very huge skill to use for your absorption sigil, which can help you stripping much more boon than you could without this sigil. Your healing skill should be Signet of the Ether. The active effect of this skill, it's reducing the cooldown of every Phantasm skill by 50%, which is huge. As you can see, skill 4 is a Phantasm, 14 seconds cooldown, you press your healing skill, the cooldown is halved. So this is the healing skill to go. The other utilities are Nullfield, Signet of Illusions, and Mimic. Let's start from Mimic. Mimic basically gives us a boon for 10 seconds, which makes our next utility we press have a 1 second cooldown. So we use Nullfield, cooldown 1 second, we have it ready again. And then the Mimic will go on cooldown based on the cooldown of the utility skill used. So this is super strong, and you should always use it before Nullfield or before Signet of Illusion. Don't use it when you have these two skills on cooldown, of course. Then we have Nullfield, create a field of energy that rips boons from foes and cures conditions on allies. So every pulse will remove a condition from allies and a boon from enemies. 5 targets, 5 enemy targets and 5 allies targets. This skill can also be blocked, it's not unblockable, so it sucks a bit for that, but still it's one of the best skills in the game because it can do so much stuff at once. And also on the Chronomancer you can cast like 3 of them in a very short matter of time, and I will show you how. Then the Signet of Illusion creates a clone every few seconds. This is decent, the passive effect, but the active effect is much better, which is recharges shatter skills, except your F5 of course. You see your F5 will not be recharged. You press it and every skill will be recharged again, meaning that you can do a lot of more damage, a lot of more AoE days, a lot of more AoE boonrip. So this is very huge, especially if you combine it with Mimic. But Mimic is very strong, even also not on Nullfield. So it's up to you, or on the cooldown you have ready at the moment in the fight, to use Mimic before Nullfield or Signet of Illusion. Our elite skill, of course, is the Gravity Well. You perform this well, which is 4 pulses, like the first 3 will apply a CC and pull the enemies to the mid, and the 4th pulse will deal heavy damage according to the description, but in War vs World every CC is nerfed, so the damage is 0. So you use this skill to do a lot of CCs and hopefully wipe the enemies, because you will have like 3 seconds of permanent CC, and if the enemies are like on our wells, they are about to die, they get the stability removed, you CC them for 3 seconds, they are dead most of the time, if you use it properly and if the enemy has no good stability uptime or coverage. Then we have the F1, which is an AoE damage, decent damage, and also a second time it will explode again, so double damage basically. The F2 is similar but less damage and no secondary explosion. The F3 is an AoE small explosion which deals no damage, but still it will be an AoE daze. And then we have the distortion from F4, we press it and we will shatter. For each illusion we shatter, we get more distortion duration, and also it will remove a target from a boon from only one target, an enemy target. This trait here will work on one enemy target. Then we have the F5, which is the main reason why Chrono is so good. Destroy all your clones and create a rift in the space-time continuum. When it expires, you will revert back to your original point with your previous health, endurance and skill recharges. Duration increases with each illusion shattered. So you should use this skill very properly. Most of the time you will have to cast your elite skill twice with it, and if you manage to, also Nullfield or Signet of Illusions. Let's get you a quick demonstration. Like now I have maximum clones, I press my elite skill, during it I press the F5, then Nullfield every shatter, then the signet, every shatter again, and it's time back. It reverts you back with the cooldown already, so you can do this again, then you can shatter again, you can signet of illusions again, shatter again, you have mimic, you can cast your second null field, and then your third null field. So this is why the continuum split combined with these utility skills, is so strong. This is a quick demonstration of how I use the continuum split in a real fight. So basically here we were sieging a keep. I have been spamming my phantasm on the gate, so I have now 3 illusions up, which I can shatter. Let's get into it. So basically what I did was, you start going to the enemy. First thing you should do before using your continuum split is using your skill, utility elite skill, the gravity well, because it has some cast time during which you can use your continuum split without wasting it. So you have continuum split activated, and in the meanwhile I also cast my null field and press all the shatters. Then I use my signet to reset the shatters. I use my shatters again. Then I am reverted back in time. I have already again all the cooldown ready. I use my mimic, null field, then I go melee. The enemies seems to be stopping here. I cast my gravity well again, and every shatter skill I can. I have null field, reduce cooldown to 1 second thanks to mimic, so I can use it again. I have every tongue on cooldown. I have my signet still, I use it. I can cast every other shatter skill again. You see how many boon strip I did in a very short matter of time. Let's see it again from the start without interrupts. So you see, I'm also kinda in a bad spot here, but the continuum split brings me back. I am ready to fight again. I have everything else left again. And you see, the enemy will crack under the boonrip. Another important thing I want you to realize is the amount of self-alacrity and also AoE quickness you can generate with this build. Let's say you have this situation with 3 clones, which is the optimal situation, which will not happen in War vs World blob fights, but still you just get the concept. Like, let's say you press your continuum split, you cast every shatter skill, then you reset them with the signet, you press them again, you go back in time with the continuum split, we have shatters again, we reset it again, and in all of this we could also use mimic to reset once more the signet of illusions. You see, I had quickness from the beginning of this small rotation and also alacrity, and I could still be going on, and also the cooldowns are starting to be ready again. So you have basically permanent quickness with this situation for you and for also your allies, unless it gets stripped, of course. In my opinion, you should just go seize the moment instead of stretch time, because the AoE alacrity is not as much worth as self-alacrity and AoE quickness. Just my opinion, but just go for what you prefer. This is a clip of a real fight I took on the Stone Mist Castle here. So it's not ideal because I didn't have a lot of illusions up, so my shatters will be bad and also the continuum split duration would be bad, but still this is the real situations which happen during the fights. So let's see it. Basically I cast my skill 2, which is the most range skill I have and also unblockable. I'm sure it will land. And then my skill 4. When you have nothing left while you are ranged, you should be out attacking, which I am doing. Then here I use mimic, the enemies are coming to us, and I immediately cast my null field. Then I cast my elite skill, and during the elite skill cast I also cast the continuum split, so it will revert back in time and I will have my elite skill ready again. During this time you can also press your shatter skills, which have no cast time. You will just explode around you, and so they will recharge with the continuum split. You will benefit from it without sacrificing any cast time. So I press every shatter skill. What I suggest you to do is pressing first your skill F4, because thanks to it you will be invulnerable and you will not have any cast interrupted during the continuum split, which is kinda bad. In this clip I didn't do it myself, but it was a mistake. The first thing you should be doing is your skill F4, so every other skill you cast is safe to cast because you are invulnerable. Then every shatter skill pressed. At this point I revert back in time with the continuum split. I have every cooldown ready again. I cast a second null field and a second well of gravity well. I still use my every shatter skill I can. I reset every shatter skill with my signet. I get interrupted. I cast my skill 5 while I wait for the signet to come up again. Okay, skill 2 to do some damage and also to be alive. Signet to reset the shatters. You see here I pressed my skill F4 first because I didn't want anything else to be stunned again as earlier. F4, F3, F2, F1, immobilize to the enemies. Then I swap back to Greatsword, skill 2 and 4, skill 3. I have nothing left, just finish out the downies. You see how much boon strip you can do. Let's see it again without interrupts by me. You can also press your continuum split again if you choose to go back in time before the duration ends. If you see the situation is going bad and reverting back now would be a better idea, you can press it again before the duration ends. So much boon strip and shatters. So you see the damage is not so strong, but still I am 8th. The Berserker do a lot of damage, and also the Holosmith, because this was a choke point and they have huge AoEs hitting like 25 enemies. But still, if you don't consider those, which are like all arc DPS padding, you have this Vindicator which is better and this Reaper which is better. But still, you see you are like top 10 while doing like twice the strips compared to other classes. This is another interesting clip which shows you how survivable this class is if you combine the amount of distortion you have and also the continuum split, reverting back in time with your previous health. Like you are about to die, you press it, you go back in time and you are full HP again. And also if you have like 3 times your F4, then you have the skill 2 from the sword, which is unevade all attacks. Then you have your skill 4 on the shield, which makes you block like for 2 seconds, and if you block an attack you can press it again, so it's like another 2 or 3 seconds, I don't remember very well. So let's get into it. The enemies are coming around from the tower. I cast my skill 2 and skill 4. I cast my elite well, and also I cast of course the continuum split during it, and I manage also to get a null field during the continuum split downtime. I go back in time. I am on shield and sword. I cast mimic, and then I cast null field here. The enemies here are about to hit a lot of damage and a lot of boon strip because they are not moving around. Then I cast my well again. I cast my null field. I go melee. I press every shatter skill, the F4 first, so I don't get interrupted or CC'd or killed. Now at this point, while you cast them, since they are instant and your signet cast is not instant, you can cast your signet before finishing casting your shatters. So I have cast now my signet, the shatters are up again, I'm like 1 against 30. I press all my shatter skills, I am invulnerable with the F4, so I cannot die. Now the invulnerability is about to end. I choose to go back, and now I have my skill 4, which saves my life. You see how many blocks it will perform. It doesn't have a fixed amount of block, it should be in my opinion, because otherwise it's just too strong. And then I have it ready again, I block again, but at this time I am really safe. Skill 2, skill 4 from the Greatsword, I cancelled it by mistake. Then I dodge into melee and cast my F1, so I can benefit from the damage and from the boon removal. Then I get out the bubble, skill 4. You see those invulnerable? This is the invulnerability on the Phantasm with the trait. A lot of invulnerable because they get hit, otherwise they would be dead in a second. My Phantasms, I mean. Then I go melee with my skill 3. From the sword, you see, I press it again and I teleport instead of the illusion. And I cast an AoE immobilize, and also I shatter immediately, skill 5 from the scepter, and at this point the enemies are just going back, trying to run for their lives. Let's see it again very quickly. I go back in time. I have everything else ready again. Casting every skill I can, I go melee, F4, I cannot die, I am invulnerable. During the invulnerability I cast my signet, F4 again, every shatter skill again. Then I go back with my skill 4 from the shield, which makes me block and saves me. And at this point the fight is already over, the enemies are cracking, they have no boons, they are like 10 left. And this is it basically. Okay guys, this is all for today's video. Thank you for watching as usual, and leave in the comments your opinions. I will read every comment. I also accept, of course, every critic you can have about the build, about the gameplay, or anything else. The next video will probably be the heal vindicator. I'm still not sure. It did win the poll except the power Chronomancer strip build, which is the one you just saw. So I'm not really sure. If I get some gameplay on the vindicator, I could post it, otherwise maybe I will think about something else. I also have a full gameplay of the Chronomancer build, which I just showed you, ready, so I can also post it, but I think I will do it later. Thank you for watching again, and see you on to the next video. Bye and have a good night.